All right, so today we're diving into a world that's a bit more, well, spirited.
Okay.
No crystal ball needed, though, because we are cracking open the Spirits book by Allan Kardec.
Yeah.
You know it, right?
Of course.
It's like the ultimate guide to Spiritism.
What I find fascinating about the Spirits book is that it didn't just appear out of nowhere.
Right.
It emerged during this whole spiritualism craze of the mid-1800s, seances, table turning, you name it. Folks were hungry for a glimpse beyond the veil.
Right, and Kardec wasn't your typical, mystical medium, was he?
Yeah.
It was more like he approached the spirit world with a detective's eye.
Absolutely. The man was meticulous. He spent 15 years gathering information from mediums worldwide, looking for those universal threads in what the spirits were saying.
Wow.
Like he was piecing together a giant paranormal puzzle.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Yeah.
What exactly is Spiritism, according to Kardec and his spirit contacts?
At its core, Spiritism proposes that you're more than just flesh and blood. You have a spirit, an intelligent essence that exists beyond the material world and even reincarnates.
Reincarnation.
Right.
So death isn't the end. It's just a new adventure for the soul.
More like a costume change, really. Your spirit continues to evolve through multiple lifetimes, learning and growing with each go-around.
So imagine the Spirits book as your guide to navigating life, death, and everything in between.
Yes.
But from the spirit's eye view.
Yeah.
Pretty wild, right?
It delves into some seriously big questions. What are spirits? Where do they come from? How do they interact with us? Do we get a say in who we come back as? Kardec tackles it all.
And he tries to present these pretty mind-blowing concepts in a way that doesn't make you run for the hills screaming.
That was his goal. Kardec was a big believer in logic and reason.
Okay.
He even said, if you want to argue with Spiritism, offer something better.
Wow.
So he lays out these principles in a very structured question and answer format, almost like a spiritual FAQ.
I like it. Speaking of FAQs, let's get to the heart of it, shall we?
Let's do it.
First up, what are spirits, according to Kardec?
Okay.
What's their deal?
This is where things get interesting. They're not your typical Casper the Friendly Ghost type of entities.
Okay.
Kardec describes them as quintessentialized matter. Basically, a form of matter so subtle it's beyond our physical perception.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like this. You can't see Wi-Fi, but you know it's there.
Okay, so we're not talking about something you'd bump into in a haunted house.
Not quite, but they're not all singing angels either. Okay.
The Spirits book describes a whole hierarchy of spirits.
Okay.
Ranging from the pure and wise to the mischievous, and let's just say those who haven't quite gotten their spiritual act together yet.
So the spirit world has its own social ladder.
Yes.
Are we talking guardian angels and troublesome imps here?
Think of it more like a spectrum with spirits at various levels of moral and intellectual development. Some are here to guide and support us, while others might be, shall we say, working on their own spiritual growth.
Right.
And maybe causing a little mischief along the way.
Makes you wonder who's hanging around your spiritual water cooler, right?
Right.
So tell me more about this hierarchy. Who's at the top? Who are the newbies? And is everyone cool with their ranking?
Well, Kardec organizes spirits into three main categories.
At the top, you have the pure spirits. Those who are closest to God, radiating wisdom and goodness.
I like them already.
They've been around the block a few thousand times and pretty much have this whole life thing figured out.
Right. They're like the Yoda of the spirit world.
Okay, I like them already. Wise and benevolent. My kind of spiritual entourage. What about those who are still earning their wings, so to speak?
In the middle, you've got the good spirits.
Okay.
These folks are on the right track, but still have some lessons to learn. They're a lot like us, striving for goodness, but occasionally tripping up along the way.
Very relatable.
Yeah.
And bringing up the rear in this cosmic ranking system.
That would be the imperfect spirits, the newbies of the spirit world.
Okay.
Think of them as the spiritual undergrads still figuring out this whole good versus evil thing.
Okay. They can be prone to mischief, selfishness, and even causing a ruckus in the physical world.
Ah, so those unexplained noises in the attic.
Yeah.
We can blame them on the imperfect spirits.
Possibly. But remember, according to Kardec, even they are on a path toward evolution.
Okay.
Nobody stays stuck in spiritual timeout forever.
So there's hope for even the most mischievous spirits.
I love that Kardec doesn't believe in a cosmic dead end.
Right.
Speaking of spiritual evolution, one of the big things that always gets people talking is reincarnation.
Of course.
What's Kardec's take on how that whole soul recycling program works?
Well, reincarnation is a cornerstone of spiritism.
Okay.
It's not about punishment or being demoted to a lower life form for bad behavior in your past life. That's a different concept.
It's about progress. Each lifetime is a chance for your spirit to learn, evolve, and move closer to that ultimate goal of spiritual perfection.
So no coming back as a slug if you mess up this go-round. Asking for a friend?
No slugs. Think of it more like each life is a tailored curriculum designed to address your spirit's specific needs. You choose your challenges, your family, your circumstances, even your weaknesses, to work through certain lessons.
Wait, you're saying we pick our life's playlist, including the sad songs and the bangers?
Yes.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. And it also reframes how you view those tough times. Even the struggles become opportunities for growth.
Yep.
Imagine signing up for a challenging hike. You might complain about the steep climbs while you're on the trail, but ultimately you're choosing the challenge to grow stronger.
That's such a great way to look at it. Now, another question. If we're surrounded by all these spirits, how do we even know they're there?
Right.
Can we just chat them up whenever we feel like it?
Good question. Kardec goes into detail about spirit communication.
Okay.
It's not as simple as picking up a spiritual cell phone, but it's definitely possible.
Okay.
He describes various methods: mediums acting as conduits, automatic writing, even good old-fashioned table rapping.
Hold up. Table rapping.
Yes.
Like spirits tapping out messages on furniture. That seems a bit unorthodox.
Well, think of it as spirits working with the tools available.
Okay.
Table rapping evolved from simple yes-no answers to forming sentences, even writing poetry. It's all about finding a way to bridge that gap between the physical and spiritual realms.
Okay. But if we can chat with spirits, doesn't that raise some red flags? What's to stop a less than truthful spirit from spinning a few yarns?
That's where discernment comes in. Kardec is very clear that spirits have their own personalities and agendas, just like humans.
Right.
Some might be more reliable than others. He emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, questioning the information you receive, and focusing on messages that align with goodness and moral progress. Basically, don't check your common sense at the seance door.
So it's like navigating any information source, take it with a grain of salt, and do your own fact-checking.
Exactly. And remember, even good intentions don't guarantee accurate information. A spirit might sincerely believe what they're communicating, but still be mistaken.
Right. Okay, here's one that's always creeped me out. What happens right after we die? Does the spirit just zip off to the afterlife, or is there some awkward in-between stage?
Well, Kardec describes a semi-material envelope called the perispirit,
All right.
which connects your spirit to your physical body during life. When you die, this perispirit gradually separates from the body. It's not always instantaneous.
So, like, our spiritual selves might hang around for a bit, maybe finish that last slice of pizza.
I wouldn't recommend sharing your pizza with a disembodied spirit.
Okay.
But there can be a period of confusion or disorientation. Spirits might linger near their loved ones, not quite grasping that they've crossed over.
Wow, that kind of makes those ghost stories a little more understandable, doesn't it?
Right.
Maybe it's not about hauntings, but about spirits taking a while to pack their spiritual bags.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And Kardec also notes that the process of separation can vary depending on the individual. Those who are deeply attached to material possessions or lived a very sensual life might have a harder time letting go.
So the key takeaway for our listeners is to start decluttering now, both physically and spiritually, it seems.
Sounds like good advice to me.
Okay, now let's get into some of the really big questions that the Spirits book tackles.
Okay.
First up, how does Kardec approach the concept of God?
Kardec's view of God is as the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things.
Yeah.
It's an intelligence that's beyond our full comprehension, but knowable through our own moral and spiritual evolution.
So God is the ultimate cosmic architect, not necessarily a bearded figure on a cloud.
Exactly. Kardec specifically refutes pantheism, the idea that God is just the sum of the universe's forces.
Right.
God is separate and distinct, the source of all creation.
And how does the Spirits book address that age-old head-scratcher? If God is all good, why is there so much suffering in the world?
This is a question that has stumped theologians and philosophers for centuries, right?
Right.
Kardec suggests that suffering stems from two main sources: the imperfections of less evolved spirits and our own misuse of free will.
So those imperfect spirits we talked about earlier might be stirring up some drama down here.
They might have a hand in it, but ultimately Kardec emphasizes that you have a choice in how you respond to their influence.
No.
Suffering, he argues, is often a consequence of our own actions and a catalyst for spiritual growth.
Okay, but what about suffering that seems totally random, like natural disasters or you being born into really tough circumstances? How does that fit into this whole spiritual growth plan?
Kardec would say that even those seemingly random situations are opportunities for us to develop qualities like compassion, resilience, and faith.
Okay.
It's about seeing those challenges not as punishments, but as tests that strengthen our spirit.
Yeah.
Like a cosmic obstacle course designed to help us level up.
So in a way, the Spirits book offers a really hopeful perspective on suffering.
It does.
It's not about being a victim. It's about finding meaning and even purpose in those tough times.
That's one way to look at it. It's about recognizing that even in the darkest moments, there's an opportunity for learning and ultimately for becoming a better version of ourselves.
Now, this whole idea of spiritual evolution, where does it all lead? Is there some kind of finish line we're all racing towards?
The ultimate goal, according to Kardec, is for each spirit to achieve a state of perfection. It's a gradual process that unfolds across multiple lifetimes, with each incarnation bringing you closer to that ideal.
So it's not about reaching a specific destination. It's about the journey itself and the continual pursuit of knowledge and growth.
Precisely. It's about constantly striving for moral and intellectual growth, learning from your mistakes, and expressing love and compassion in your actions.
And the Spirits book offers a roadmap for that journey.
You could say that it provides insights into the laws that govern the spiritual world, the nature of our relationships, and the consequences of our choices. It's about understanding the bigger picture of your existence and recognizing your own role in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, so we've talked about life, death, and this whole evolution thing. But what about the time spent as a spirit between lifetimes? What's going on in that ethereal waiting room?
This is where things get really intriguing. Okay.
The Spirits book describes this period as a time of reflection where you review your past life, acknowledge your mistakes, and even choose the challenges you'll face in your next incarnation.
So it's like a spiritual debriefing session where you get to hit rewind and fast forward on the DVR of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get to see the consequences of your actions, learn from your experiences, and make plans for your next spiritual semester.
But if we're making choices as spirits, what about free will in the physical world? Does that still hold up?
That's a question that continues to spark debate.
Right.
If you're pre-selecting your challenges as a spirit, doesn't that mean your earthly life is predetermined?
Right. Like we're playing a video game where we've already chosen the difficulty level before we even hit start. Does that take away from the thrill of the game? It's a good question. But remember, while you may choose the broad strokes of your life, the overall themes and lessons, the details unfold through your choices and actions in the physical world.
So we pick the genre of the movie, comedy, drama, action, thriller, but we get to improvise the dialogue.
That's a great analogy. You have the freedom to navigate the twists and turns to make choices that shape the narrative. Your free will is very much in play.
And the Spirits book acts as a guide to making those choices wisely, like a cosmic game plan.
You could say that. It provides a framework for understanding the consequences of your actions and for aligning yourself with the laws that govern the spiritual world. It's about making choices that lead to growth, not just instant gratification.
Okay, so we pick the game, but we get to play it our own way. That's a bit more reassuring.
Exactly. And remember, even with a pre-selected game plan, there are always unexpected twists and turns.
Right.
That's the beauty of free will. It keeps things interesting.
Now, we've talked a lot about the spirit world, but what about our own inner world?
Okay.
How does the Spirits book address the concept of self-knowledge and personal growth?
Kardec actually places great emphasis on self-knowledge as a cornerstone of spiritual progress.
Okay.
He echoes that ancient maxim, know thyself, arguing that understanding your own strengths, weaknesses, and motivations is essential for navigating the journey of evolution.
So it's not just about exploring the universe out there. It's about exploring the universe within, kind of like an inner space program.
Precisely. Kardec encourages you to examine your conscience, to reflect on your actions, and to identify the areas where you need to grow. He even suggests doing a nightly review, asking yourself how you've lived up to your values and where you might have fallen short.
It's like a spiritual performance review. Did we hit our goals for the day, and how can we improve our game tomorrow?
That's a great way to think about it. And Kardec suggests that this process of self-reflection combined with prayer and guidance from our spirit protectors can accelerate your spiritual growth.
So it's about taking an active role in our own evolution, not just passively waiting for enlightenment to strike.
Exactly. Kardec encourages us to be conscious participants in our spiritual journey, to make choices that align with our highest aspirations, and to seek growth in every aspect of our lives.
And the Spirits book provides the tools and insights to make that happen.
Absolutely. It's like having a spiritual toolbox filled with wisdom and guidance for navigating the ups and downs of your journey.
Now, the Spirits book also delves into the concept of suffering. Is it always a punishment for past misdeeds, or is there a more nuanced perspective?
Kardec actually challenges the idea that suffering is purely punitive. He suggests that it often serves as a catalyst for growth, a necessary part of the evolutionary process.
So it's not about divine retribution, it's about learning and evolving through challenges.
Exactly. Kardec argues that even the most difficult experiences can serve as opportunities for you to develop virtues like compassion, resilience, and faith.
So it's not about avoiding suffering, it's about finding meaning
and
even purpose in those tough times.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that even in the darkest moments, there's an opportunity for learning and ultimately for becoming a better version of yourself. It's about turning those struggles into spiritual muscle.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Now, the Spirits book also talks about a hierarchy of spirits ranging from the pure and wise to those who are, shall we say, still figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
How do these different types of spirits interact with us in the physical world?
Kardec suggests that we're constantly surrounded by spirits, both benevolent and less evolved, and that they can influence our thoughts, feelings, and even actions.
So it's like we're navigating a spiritual cocktail party with a mix of good and bad influences vying for our attention.
That's a fun way to put it. And Kardec emphasizes the importance of discernment, of being able to recognize the whispers of wisdom from the temptations that lead us astray.
So how do we tell the difference between a spiritually sound whisper and a seductive but misleading voice? How do we separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak?
Kardec suggests focusing on the content of the messages. Do they encourage love, compassion, and moral growth? Or do they stir up negativity, fear, or division?
Okay.
He also emphasizes the importance of seeking consistency and coherence. Does the information align with your own understanding of truth and goodness?
So it's about using our own intuition and judgment, even when dealing with the unseen world.
Exactly. You're not meant to be a passive recipient of information, even from spirits. You have a responsibility to use your own discernment and to make choices that align with your highest values.
And what about those bad spirits? Are they inherently evil? Or are they just misguided souls trying to find their way?
Kardec believes that even the most imperfect spirits are on a path toward evolution.
Okay.
They're not destined for eternal damnation. They're simply less advanced, still grappling with negative tendencies and making choices that hinder their progress.
So it's not about good spirits versus bad spirits. It's about a spectrum of development. We're all on this journey. Some of us just have a bit further to go.
That's the underlying principle of Spiritism. It's a philosophy of hope and progress, even for those who are currently stuck in the spiritual slow lane.
Okay, so we've established that even spirits have a learning curve. But let's talk about one of the biggest questions that the Spirits book tackles. What happens after we die? Is it lights out, or is there something more?
We'll get ready for this. Kardec paints a fascinating picture of the afterlife. And it's not about harps and clouds. He describes a realm where spirits continue to evolve, learn, and even interact with one another, much like they did in the physical world.
So it's not the end. It's just a change of scenery and a chance to catch up with old friends who are now spirits.
Precisely. And the scenery varies depending on the spirit's level of development. Those who are more evolved inhabit a realm of greater knowledge, peace, and even joy, while those who are less evolved might find themselves in a more turbulent or challenging environment. It's all about spiritual alignment even in the afterlife.
So kind of like the afterlife has its own zip codes with different neighborhoods for different spiritual vibes.
That's a great way to visualize it. And Kardec emphasizes that there's no stagnation in the afterlife. Spirits continue to learn, grow, and even choose their next incarnations based on the lessons they need to learn.
Okay, so you're saying even in the afterlife, those imperfect spirits still have some work to do. They don't just get a free pass because they're not bound to a physical body anymore.
Exactly. It's about continual growth and evolution no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. And remember those choices we were talking about earlier, choosing our challenges before we incarnate. Well, that happens in the spirit world too.
So it's not about reaching some final destination, but about continuous evolution.
Yeah.
Even after we've left our physical bodies behind.
That's the beauty of Kardec's vision of the afterlife. It's dynamic and progressive. It's about recognizing that death is not the end, but a transition to a new phase of our spiritual journey.
Now, the Spirits book also delves into communication with spirits. Is it as simple as dialing up a spiritual hotline? or is there a bit more to it?
Kardec actually describes a variety of methods for communicating with spirits, from mediumship to automatic writing to table rapping, even direct voice communication.
Yeah.
But he emphasizes that it's not just about mastering a technique, it's about creating the right conditions for clear and meaningful interaction.
So you're saying it's not like ordering takeout, one spirit communication, please. There's a certain finesse to it.
Precisely. Kardec highlights the importance of creating a harmonious and respectful atmosphere of approaching spirit communication with sincerity and humility, and of being discerning about the messages we receive.
It's about setting the spiritual table, so to speak, making sure we're welcoming the right guest to our metaphysical dinner party.
Exactly. And Kardec also emphasizes the importance of questioning the information we receive, comparing it with our own understanding of truth and goodness, and seeking consistency and coherence.
So even when dealing with the spirit world, we need to bring our critical thinking caps. We can't just accept everything we hear, no matter how ethereal the voice might sound.
Absolutely. We're not meant to be passive recipients of information, even from spirits. We have a responsibility to use our own discernment and to make choices that align with our highest values.
Now, the Spirits book was written in the mid-1800s, a time when interest in spiritualism was booming. Seances were all the rage, right? But how does this book, written almost 2 centuries ago, hold up in the 21st century?
It's a good question. And some might dismiss the Spirits book as simply a product of its time, but I think what's fascinating is how many of its core concepts still resonate with modern spiritual seekers. The idea that we're more than just our physical bodies, that consciousness continues after death, and that our choices have lasting consequences. These are themes that transcend any particular era.
Right. And these themes are popping up everywhere these days. We're seeing it in accounts of near-death experiences, stories about reincarnation, and even in scientific explorations into the nature of consciousness. It's like Kardec was tapping into something much bigger than the spiritualist movement of his time.
Exactly. While the specific language and examples in the Spirits book might feel a bit dated, the underlying principles align with a lot of contemporary spiritual thought. It's a testament to the timeless nature of certain spiritual truths.
Now, the Spirits book covers a lot of ground: reincarnation, spirit communication, even the nature of God. But what's the big takeaway for our listeners? If they only remember one thing from this deep dive, what's the core message that Kardec is trying to convey?
If I had to sum it up, I'd say Kardec offers a vision of hope and progress. He's suggesting that we're all on a journey of spiritual evolution, that our choices have consequences, and that even when faced with suffering, there's always an opportunity for growth and transformation.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about striving for progress.
Exactly. And it's a journey that doesn't end with physical death. It continues in the spirit world, where we learn from our experiences, make new choices, and prepare for future incarnations. Think of it like a never-ending quest for knowledge and understanding.
It's like we're all students in the school of life. And there's always a new lesson to learn, a new challenge to embrace, and a new level of understanding to achieve.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And the Spirits book acts as a kind of spiritual textbook, offering insights and guidance for those who are seeking a deeper understanding of their own journey.
Now, for our listeners who might be feeling intrigued by this whole spiritism thing, what's the best way to approach the Spirits book? It seems like a pretty hefty read. Should they clear their schedules and settle in for a metaphysical marathon?
Well, it's definitely not light beach reading, but I encourage your listeners to approach it with an open mind and a willingness to consider new perspectives. It's a book that invites questioning and reflection, not blind acceptance.
So don't just take Kardec's word for it. Really engage with the material, ponder the questions he raises, and see what resonates with your own experiences.
Precisely. It's a book that's meant to be explored, not just consumed in one sitting.
And remember, Kardec himself encouraged healthy skepticism. He wasn't trying to convert anyone. He was trying to start a conversation.
Exactly. He wanted to provide a framework for understanding the spirit world, but he also acknowledged that ultimately each individual must find their own truth. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to spirituality.
Okay, so we've explored the spirit world, the concept of reincarnation, and even touched on some big existential questions. But here's one that's been on my mind. If we're surrounded by all these unseen forces, both good and bad, how do we protect ourselves from those negative influences? It's a little like, are there any spiritual security systems we can install?
That's a great question. And it's one that Kardec directly addresses in the Spirits book. He suggests that the best protection against negative spiritual influences is to cultivate your own inner strength and moral compass.
So it's less about warding off evil spirits with garlic and crucifixes and more about amplifying our own inner light.
Exactly. Kardec emphasizes developing qualities like love, compassion, humility, and faith. He argues that these virtues act as a kind of spiritual armor, making you less susceptible to negative influences.
So it's like building up your spiritual immune system. You're less likely to catch a metaphysical cold if your spiritual defenses are strong.
That's a great way to think about it. Kardec also suggests practices like prayer and meditation as ways to connect with your higher self and attract the support of benevolent spirits. It's about aligning yourself with the forces of good, both within and around you.
So instead of just locking the doors, we're throwing a party for the good spirits and hoping they crowd out the less desirable guests. I like that approach.
And remember, you always have free will. You can choose to focus your attention on positive thoughts and actions, which in turn strengthens your connection to the spiritual realms of goodness.
Okay, so it's not about being paranoid about every little creak in the floorboards. It's about cultivating our inner strength and consciously aligning ourselves with those higher, more positive vibes.
That's the key takeaway. And Kardec reminds us that we are never alone on this journey. We have the support of our spirit guides and protectors who are always there to guide and assist us in our evolution.
That's reassuring. Knowing we have a spiritual cheering section can make all the difference. It's comforting to know we've got backup out there in the ethereal realms.
Yeah.
But here's something I've been pondering. If we choose our challenges before we're even born, what does that say about free will?
Right.
Does it even exist if we've already, mapped out our own trials and tribulations?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's the one that, philosophers and theologians have grappled with for centuries.
Right.
If we're essentially pre-selecting our life lessons from the spirit world, do our earthly experiences become, a bit scripted?
Exactly. It's like we're all actors in this grand cosmic play. And we've already, agreed to our roles and lines before the curtain even goes up.
Right.
So where's the room for ad-libbing? Where does our free will actually come into play?
It's a compelling point, and it's one that even seasoned spiritualists continue to debate.
Right.
But here's the thing. While you might choose the overarching themes and challenges of your life, think of it like the genre of the movie.
Okay.
Whether it's a comedy, a drama, or a sci-fi thriller, you still have the freedom to improvise the dialogue. You get to decide how you'll react to those challenges and what you'll learn from them.
So we pick the game, but we get to play it our own way.
Yes.
Okay, that takes some of the pressure off.
Well, right.
Knowing we have that creative license.
Exactly. And don't forget, even with a pre-selected game plan, there will always be unexpected twists and turns. Think plot twists, surprise endings, maybe even a guest appearance from a character you weren't expecting. That's the beauty of free will. It keeps things interesting.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the individual journey, but what about humanity as a whole? Does the Spirit's book offer any insights into the collective evolution of humankind?
Kardec actually believed that humanity is on a collective journey toward progress. He saw Spiritism not just as a personal philosophy, but also as a powerful force for social transformation.
So it's not just about, individual enlightenment. It's about raising the collective consciousness and creating a better world for everyone.
Exactly. Kardec envisioned a future where a greater understanding of the spirit world would naturally lead to a more just, compassionate, and equitable society. He firmly believed that as we evolve spiritually, we also evolve morally and socially.
So it's as more individuals turn up their inner lights, the whole world gets a little brighter. Kind of like a chain reaction of compassion.
I like that. That's a great way to put it. Kardec saw a direct link between spiritual progress and social progress. He believed that as we deepen our understanding of the laws governing the spirit world, we'll be better equipped to create a world that reflects those principles of love, justice, and harmony.
And the Spirit's book acts as a guidebook for that collective transformation.
Absolutely. It provides incredible insights into the nature of good and evil, the far-reaching consequences of our choices, and the vital importance of aligning our actions with our highest values.
It's like a blueprint for building a better world. One soul at a time.
Now you're getting it. And it's a powerful reminder that our individual choices have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. We're all threads in this vast tapestry of life, and our actions contribute to the collective evolution of humanity.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive, haven't we? From the nature of spirits to the mind-bending concept of reincarnation to the very real possibility of social transformation, the Spirit's book doesn't shy away from the big questions.
It doesn't. It's a book that invites us to expand our understanding of ourselves, the universe, and the very nature of reality.
It's a powerful reminder that even when faced with uncertainty, there's always hope for progress, both for ourselves as individuals and for humanity as a whole.
Kardec's challenge to offer something better is a call to action for all of us.
Right.
It's an invitation to engage with these big questions head on and to strive for a more enlightened future, both for ourselves and for generations to come.
So if you're ready to explore the mysteries of the spirit world, grapple with life's biggest questions, and explore the incredible potential of a more evolved humanity, the Spirits book might be just what you've been searching for.
It might be. And remember, approach it with an open mind and a healthy dose of curiosity. Let Kardec's words spark your own journey of discovery and see what truths resonate with you.
That's a perfect note to end on. We hope this deep dive has inspired you to explore the fascinating and thought-provoking world of the Spirits book and to continue seeking your own answers to life's greatest mysteries. Until next time, keep those minds open and those spirits high.